It took more than 3 months for the US to record its first million coronavirus cases. Now it's averaging more than 1 million a week. That's prompted Michigan and Washington, two states on opposite sides of the country, to reintroduce partial lockdowns.
We are in the worst moment of this pandemic to date. The situation has never been more dire.
The restrictions are intended to slow the spread of the virus, but critics fear they'll also slow the economy. That's why President-elect Joe Biden is urging lawmakers to approve more stimulus measures.
Congress should come together and pass a COVID relief package like the HEROES Act that the House passed 6 months ago.
That was worth $3 trillion. Democrats want to follow it up with $2.2 trillion, while Republicans are targeting $1.8 trillion. Biden says any short-term aid will need long-term reinforcement. His Build Back Better plan would create almost 19 million jobs through $7 trillion in spending on infrastructure, climate-friendly projects, and new technologies. Biden also wants to roll back Trump administration tax breaks that have trimmed the corporate rate to 21% from 35% during the Obama presidency. And he's planning to double the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour.
It's based on a simple premise. It's time to reward work, not just wealth in America. We're going to have a fair tax structure that makes sure the wealthiest among us and corporations pay their fair share.
Hope for a post-pandemic recovery is also getting a boost from progress on 2 potential vaccines. Pharma giants Pfizer and Moderna say they're working on immunizations that have so far proven more than 90% effective. But Donald Trump's refusal to cooperate in the transition could make it harder to get those drugs to the people who need them.
If we have to wait until January 20th to start that planning, it puts us behind over a month, month and a half. And so it's important that it be done, that there be coordination now.
The fate of many of Biden's plans will depend on how much of the government Democrats end up running. Control of the Senate is still up for grabs in runoff elections for Georgia's 2 seats in January. The Democratic Party needs to win both or face Republican roadblocks. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
All right, let's get more on this now from Joann Weiner in Washington. She's an associate professor in economics at George Washington University. Good to have you on the program with us.
Nice to be here.
Biden's $7 trillion spending plan would create 19 million jobs. That sounds great, but if Republicans maintain control of the Senate, how feasible is this likely to be?
Well, you hit it on the nail there, is that it's very, very difficult in Washington to get spending plans done when you don't control all branches of both the House and the Senate. So Biden will have a difficult time. That said, getting 19 million jobs back would put us back to where we were before the pandemic hit. So no one is arguing that we don't need to put these people back to work. It's just how are we going to pay to get them working?
Revitalizing the middle class and making it more racially inclusive is the cornerstone of Biden's plan. How important is the middle class to America's economy?
Oh, the middle class is vitally important. I mean, there are many, many definitions of middle class, but if you talk about the fact of what share of American workers have college degrees, for example, it's not as high as you would think. So you're talking about middle class as people who have good jobs, they have a good level of education, but they're not at the tippy top and they're not at the very bottom. It's a big, big group. And actually more people think they're middle class than anywhere else in the economy. So Biden is talking to them when he's talking about putting the middle class back to work.
Biden, as expected, also wants to roll back the Trump administration tax breaks on the wealthy and corporations. What are we talking about here? And how much of that would offset the spending commitment of Biden's economic plan?
Well, my understanding is that no one who makes less than $400,000 a year, and I believe that's probably households, will have a tax increase. Repealing the tax cuts for the upper income is sort of like what happened under President Obama when George W. Bush had temporary tax cuts and President Obama extended all of the tax cuts except for those at the very top. It probably makes sense in today's economy, where we're seeing what we call a K recovery, a K-shaped recovery, where those at the top are doing better, those at the bottom have not yet seen a recovery, to try to do something to get a little bit money back in the economy. Now, that said, no one is talking about worrying about deficit reduction. I mean, the CBO actually has just came out with the fiscal 2020 numbers, and the U.S. debt now exceeds our GDP, and that's pretty astounding to have that number just be out there.
4 years ago, Trump promised to bring manufacturing jobs back to America, jobs that had been lost to China and Mexico. Biden is also pledging to restore U.S. manufacturing and have more products that will be made in America. Do you think that's realistic given the high cost of labor in America by comparison to Mexico and China?
Well, there are lots of changes happening in our economy. And as an economist, I'm very encouraged by the fact that people are now starting to take a look at some of the disparities that are being baked into our economy. And the notion that just because something can be made cheaper abroad means that it should be made abroad is raising real questions in the economic profession. So, for example, we can either pay people in the form of wages that they earn on the job, or we can pay them in the form of handouts from the government of one type or another. I think most people would rather earn their income than get it from the government. So, but there is a clear need to address that disparity in wages, and when the income inequality is growing by leaps and bounds, is something that I think people are saying, look, how much more does the top need, and can we do a little bit more redistribution to those in the middle and the bottom who also need support.
Right. What about these next 2 months before Biden takes office, as we see the U.S. going further into lockdown because of the increasing cases of coronavirus? I mean, how critical do you think it would be for there to be another stimulus package to help, with the next 2 months or so?
Oh, the number of packages that are expiring at the end of December is phenomenal. I mean, people are going to start being evicted. There's the pandemic emergency unemployment payments are going to go away. State and local funding. I mean, December 31st is we're going to fall off a cliff if nothing is done. Unfortunately, the behavior of the president in the last couple of weeks doesn't indicate that he's going to do much to try to help these people come January. So I think that President-elect Biden called it yesterday something like a very dark winter coming, and he can't really do much in terms of spending until he's actually president. So I'm one of those who says that I'd like to see Congress and the current president get something out in the hands of the people who really need it. I mean, it's a shame to see the country actually being willing to have all this economic pain hit when it doesn't really have to be that bad.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Joann Weiner, Associate Professor in Economics at George Washington University. Thank you so much.